Well, we're getting an early start today. It's like 2 in the morning, and today's drink of choice is Monster. This is like my third one, so that's fun. We got a valve cover. We got a Supercharger pulley installed, which was real fun because the stock 3.8-inch pulley would not fit into the press, so we had to zip half of it off so it'd fit. So as it turns out, the stock 3.8-inch pulley does not fit in a large Harbor Freight press, so shenanigans had to happen in order to fix it, but hopefully now we can press that off of there, put the new hub on there, and be good to go. Press out the old one. Yay. Rebuild the tool to add the new hub, and long story short, that's all done now. So now I've got a Supercharger with no pulley on it, which is great. Valve cover can go on, which means the alternator bracket can go on, which means the Supercharger can go back on. I still don't have a pulley for the Supercharger or Supercharger oil, so we're just going to drain the oil out of it for now and put it on there because it's easy to fill once it's on the car. And then it's just a matter of accessory belts and a few odds and ends, some bolts. Oh, motor mount. Still got the motor mount. Oh God, let's just get going. Dug out the old coolant elbows here. This one came apart. Actually, this one came apart as well, and you have to dig out both the O-ring and that little nub there. But got these new nice metal coolant elbows ready to go in. Took off the old O-rings, which you can see here. These turn to goo for whatever reason. You can see they're just like a slightly different orange than the good AC Delco O-rings. So you just need 3 of the small ones and one of the big ones. I bought a whole package because screw it, and yeah, it's pretty simple. O-ring on elbow in the bracket, and then on the car it goes. Easy peasy. I'm sure it will be a nightmare for some reason. Coloring and composition aside, it looks like the AC Delco O-ring is actually just a little bit fatter in overall diameter than the Dorman part, which could also be a contributor to better sealing and whatnot, as well as just, you know, not turning to goo. That's also helpful. Well, we're certainly keeping with tradition and finger-tight fasteners on this car. This is the fill port for the Supercharger oil. It was that tight. It was literally just finger tight. So I wonder if this has been changed or topped up or something. Oh God, that does not smell good. At any rate, I'm gonna dump this out, and then tomorrow I can go get some actual General Motors Supercharger oil and put the right stuff in here. And bam, just like that, it's the next day. It was like 4 a.m. when we stopped working last night. Now I'm back at it, and right now what I'm working on is this thing. This is what's called the vacuum harness for the Supercharger. This is part of it. It's very broken, as you can see. This T, focus. This T is absolutely trash. This part's broken off. It's all this crappy plastic hardline that gets really super brittle. Plastic hardline, rubber tees. I did the absolute opposite of that and made this. This is rubber softline and plastic tees. I would have preferred to use brass tees, but nowhere locally sold them. So what this does is it gets its vacuum from a port on the lower intake manifold there. It splits off in two directions. In the back, it goes back to this thing here, which is part of no, that's the map sensor. It goes back to I believe that's the map sensor. And then it comes forward and comes to the fuel pressure regulator, and then tees off from there and comes to this boost control solenoid. So I've basically just done that and then stepped it up and down as necessary, because this is enormous, and then where it comes off the intake is enormous, and then those are tiny. You know, it's whatever. Let's just throw it on here. I'm tired. Well, would you just look at it? It's starting to look like an engine. I got my plug wire routing figured out a bit better. I got this purge solenoid thing hooked up and put in place. The map sensor is also back there, and you can see the vacuum hoses running all over the place. Just look at what the packaging on this thing. Nothing's elegant. There's nothing elegant about any part of this. I got this brace put on back here. I got some hose clamps on those heater hoses back there. Yeah, there's not a whole lot left at this point. I got to fill this with coolant, and I got to fill that with some snout oil, and there is a fairly obvious piece missing here from the end that I'm not sure I'll actually be able to put on tonight, but oh, and look at how pretty my front wires are. Don't worry, I'll get a heat shield for that one eventually. Super nice wire routing comb that just makes them all look very pretty. So, Supercharger snout oil goes in this little fill hole here. It's pretty small. I was really hoping this would be more like a squeeze bottle with a spout, but it's not. It's just that. And so I'm gonna need like a really tiny funnel or something to get that in there, and I'm not sure. You're not even ready for this genius. So I drilled a hole in the lid and stuck some vacuum line on there, and hopefully it was a very tight fit. Hopefully this will become a squeeze bottle. I can't tell if it's coming out or not. Here's the problem, it has no way to vent. Okay, update. I have made an air hole on this side, so if I put that in like that, I should now, I don't know, I can probably just leave it like that for a while. Alright, and there it is. I just filled it up till it started coming out of the hole, and then stuck the plug back in and made sure it was actually tight this time. That thing was another instance of a finger loose fastener on this car. It is frankly amazing. Oh man, my hair. It is frankly amazing how long this last part is taking, and my hair just gets crazier every single time. I've got 1 hour on my work lunch break here. I'm gonna try and get this car started, pretty much. What's left is the front motor mount, supercharger belt, and fill it with coolant, install the intake, battery, and I think that's it. So let's start with that motor mount, because I really don't want to. Yeah, I just want to get that done. It's not really necessary for the engine to start, but I just want to do it. Corvette magnet. Shiny new motor mount that looks absolutely nothing like every tutorial I looked at. Cool! Well, not only crap, but double crap, because not only is this the wrong mount, the stud that this nut goes into broke and is now just spinning, so I'm gonna have to rectify that. You can see though how absolutely trashed this mount is. That's not really supposed to be like that. I think I'm going to try and pry this out of there, see if I can get to the back side of that stud, and I don't know, and go grind it off or something. Okay, well, my solution here is to hammer a pickle fork between the mount and the bracket to put enough tension on the stud that I can hit it with the big boy impact, turn all the way up, and that has enough to shock it and get the nut backed off a little bit at a time. This is cutting into my hour pretty big, isn't it? Well, that actually worked a treat. So yeah, this side you can see is completely broken off. It's like a metal ball and socket sort of thing. The ball goes in there and then it's all just filled with rubber so that there's some shock dampening. And on this side, this is just like a captive bolt that's internally welded, and then the welds just broke as soon as I went to take it off. If I had used my big impact, that probably wouldn't have happened, because with the shock would have gotten the nut off before it broke the welds. Most likely. I don't know. Either way, now I got to go to O'Reilly's with this, hopefully get the right mount, and I can throw all this back together. Also super fun is that all of these studs just came out when I undid the brackets, so I'll have to resolve that somehow. The problem with just screwing them back as they are is a lot of times you'll get like 3 threads of engagement on the stud, and then the nut just starts going in. And then when you end up tightening it down, it just pulls the threads out. So I need to either get those nuts off of there, or I don't know, do something. We'll see. Hey, wow, look at that. It's the right motor mount. It's actually trans mount, as it turns out. That's what they call it. I'm not doing the box thingy. I've done the box thing a whole bunch of times, and it's just not worth the effort. Let's make it be on the car. Wow, what a shining monument to mounts. I guess the next thing is a supercharger pulley. Here we go. I did not order a pulley. I thought we could dig around a bit and find a few different sizes to try, but in the end what we found was this. So the stock pulley is 3.8 inches. Generally the step that you want to go from there is to 3.4. If you're feeling really saucy, you can go to like 3.2, but that generally requires a lot of supporting mods. This is 2.8. Hi, welcome to the channel. It's stupid here. So we're gonna throw this on, and we're not gonna drive the car. I'm gonna start the car, rev it a few times, and my actual pulley gets here in a couple days. Maybe go around the block and just see how bad the knock retard is with this on here. Okay, so unfortunately boost is not happening just yet. That is not a 2.8 inch pulley, that is a 2.7, which, as well as being even smaller and way too much boost, it doesn't actually clear the snout of the supercharger. I would have to hack away at it with a die grinder, and I would just rather not do that. So I'm gonna wait for my larger pulley to arrive, and then we can run the supercharger. But for now, I'm just gonna start the car with the supercharger belt off, and well, just make sure that it runs. Make sure my oil pressure sender is reporting correctly. Make sure that the water pump doesn't leak. Make sure there's no vacuum nonsense, so that this thing is all ready to go when it is tuning time. It sort of runs. Pretty significant misfire though. It's inevitable. Every time plug wires come off, they go back on wrong. I had 4 and 6 swapped, so let's try that again. No codes, no leaks, no weird noises, and that's one of the smoothest revving 3800s I've ever felt in my life. The only thing we got here is a bunch of smoke from my grimy mess that's all over the exhaust. It lives! It's smoking. Nope, it's not enough that it just starts tonight. This thing needs to drive. I'm going to make that pulley fit. I went and bought a new belt, and we're gonna see what we can do here. What are we going to do? I have some ideas. Haircut is not among them though. Okay, you guys aren't even ready for how brilliant this is. So what I've done, this is actually brilliant, so it's not my idea. Clearly, Zeph gave me this idea. I don't have a lathe or anything. I need to take some material off the inside of this pulley so it will fit over the ribs on this snout, because I'd rather not modify my Supercharger. I'd rather modify the $40 pulley. So, in lieu of any fixture to mount this to like a lathe or a drill or something, I'm instead mounting it backwards on the Supercharger so I can get to the inside. I have some 120 grit sandpaper. I will hold the 120 grit sandpaper on the inside of this pulley while running the engine. The intake induction going through the vanes will spin the Supercharger a little bit. Once I get the engine revved up and get this spinning, I need to unplug this vacuum line here. What that will do is close the Supercharger bypass. Then all the air has to force its way through the Supercharger. I'm not sure if the engine makes enough vacuum to actually spin the Supercharger that way. I guess we'll find out, but that should spin this up pretty quickly, and hopefully I can take off just a little bit of material. This just barely touches, and yeah, then it's tiny pulley time. Yay! Can I just say thank you, General Motors, for making an engine bay where in order to move the tensioner, you have to remove the battery. And it's such a simple solution. They put a Torx in there, right? If that was just a bolt head that I could get a wrench on, just a box end wrench, that wouldn't be a problem. Anyway, the pulley's on. Let's go start the engine. It makes boost noises. Now that the car's back in one piece, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to drive it. But Jake, you just threw a ton of extra boost at a car and have done no supporting mods or tuning. What are you doing? Well, hang on, I've got a secret. Do you remember that boost bypass solenoid from earlier? Actually, I'm not even sure if I mentioned it, but it is right down there, if the camera would focus. That thing there. It has been wired open. It will not shut. What that means is most of the boost that this Supercharger makes is going to bleed off, which is a lot less fun, but a lot healthier for the engine. My supporting mods haven't gotten here yet, so I don't really want to make any more power than stock for the longevity of my engine and transmission, but I would like to make sure that all my other repairs did actually work, you know, like that and the water pump. So this is a pretty good alternative to actually having it tuned. I'm also going to have Torque open on my phone, which is a OBD2 scanning app, and that is going to be showing me knock retard, which is when the engine pulls timing because of like pre-detonation and stuff. So between those two things, I should be all right to take it easy and go around the block and just kind of suss it out. Oh my gosh, it looks like a murder happened in here. There's oil and coolant absolutely everywhere. Dang it, now I've got cleaning to do. Pre-detonation or knock is really one of the killers of these engines, even from the factory. My naturally aspirated one would pull 5 degrees of timing at wide open throttle, and it was stock. It was completely stock. Generally that's a symptom of a poorly maintained engine. So I've been driving this around a little bit off camera, monitoring everything. I've got absolutely no knock retard whatsoever, but also no boost. I'm peaking at a glorious 3 pounds of positive pressure here, which is good because that means there's no chance that I will blow up this engine. I can safely take this thing to run errands, but here's what this does do. It makes the best noises. There's so much more supercharger whine than there was, and that's with it recirculating most of its boost. Oh, it's hysterical. I mean, these aren't expensive cars. I know I got this one for free, so this is kind of like the pot calling the kettle chartreuse. For how much these cars cost, and the amount of stuff you can do to them for relatively cheap, I think I'm less than $500 into these mods so far, and I don't think I'm gonna break 1,000 by the time I get this thing actually making power. But just the supercharger. Wow, that new motor mount also just makes it feel a lot better. There's no clunking when I get on and off the gas. That's great. Okay, well, it's like 11 p.m. now. I've been working on this thing for forever. I'm going to go get some Taco Bell and fall deeply into a food coma. Let's do one more pull here, though. It's slower than it was stock. That's hilarious. Thanks for watching.